Hello, Lakers fans. This is Wilson. So, in this week's episode, I'll be getting into LeBron officially re-signing with the Lakers. JJ Redick starting to fill out his coaching staff with some veteran coaching hires. The Lakers, what they did in the draft last week, drafting Dalton Knecht and Bronny James. The Max Christie extension, and then also, Klay Thompson leaving the Warriors for the Mavericks, and just some kind of, obviously Paul George of the Sixers, and some around the NBA free agency stuff. So since last week's episode, which was recorded last Monday, the same day that the Lakers introduced JJ Redick as as the 29th coach in franchise history. A lot has happened. I gave a brief rundown at the beginning. I'll start with today's news, which is first off, LeBron James re-signing with the Lakers for 2 years, $104 million, with a no trade clause and a player option after the first year. So he and Bradley Beal are the only two players in the league now with a no trade clause. And of course, there were not even a rumor. Rich Paul said himself that LeBron would have been willing to take a pay cut. I think it would have been up to $16 million to open up the full mid-level exception for the Lakers, if it meant that they would sign a player of his liking like Klay Thompson, James Harden, Jonas Valanciunas. I think those were the three names that Rich mentioned. But like as I said, Klay, he left the Warriors for the Mavericks, chose the Mavericks over the Lakers. It came down to the Lakers and the Warriors. The Lakers and the Mavericks. James Harden re-signed with the Clippers for 2 years, $70 million. And Jonas Valanciunas signed, I think it was 3 years, $30 million with the Wizards. So, and DeMar DeRozan, I don't know. He's a free agent. The Bulls traded for Josh Giddey. It says I spread the Bulls are still open to a sign and trade if that's possible, but he wouldn't fit anyway. So LeBron took the max that he could get for 2 years. Of course, the reporting that the Lakers would be willing to offer him up to I think the most he could get was 3 years, $163 million. And instead, he took 2 years, $104 million with an opt-out or a player option after the first year. So what does that mean? Does it mean he's thinking about possibly retiring after this season, as Kendrick Perkins said on ESPN? To me, that would be the most plausible and the most reasonable thought They hired the head coach. His co-host of his podcast. They hired him to be the head coach. They drafted his son in the second round. Would he really leave now after this season to chase maybe one more ring in his last couple years at 41 years old? It doesn't make sense, right? So my guess is that LeBron is going to play this year. He gets to play with his son. And then after this season, he'll decide if he wants to continue playing or not. He'll be 40 years old in December. He's going to be in year 22. I'm not sure. I think, how many guys went to the year 22? I think Vince Carter's like the only one. So if I'm sure, did Vince play 22 years? So, obviously sooner or later, it has to end at some point. And what else does he have to do? He already has 4 championships. He's the all-time leading scorer. What else is there? Vince played 22 years too. So LeBron will match him this season. Will he like to play? Will he come back for a 23rd year to go, hey, I played 23 years, Michael Jordan 23? I don't know. We'll have to see. But we do know that for next season, he will be a Laker. Again, this will be his 7th season with the Lakers, which would tie the longest consecutive tenure streak, however you say that. 7 straight years with one team. He's only done that once before, and that's his first 7 years in the league with Cleveland. So he'll be doing so with a roster that'll be looking like it'll be pretty much the same as last year. I can't forget D'Angelo Russell opted in to his contract, so he'll be here next year unless they trade him. And it's not looking like much of a trade market right now, So there's that. And then also this morning, the news broke. I guess we wouldn't call it breaking news, but, it was reported that J.J. Redick has started filling out his coaching staff with Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan, two veteran coaches. Scotty Brooks, most famous for coaching the Thunder between 2009 and 2015. So 2009, I believe that was their first year in Oklahoma City. So that was Kevin Durant's second year, Russell Westbrook's first year. So he saw them through their early rise, made the finals in 2012, finally got fired after the 2015 season. Now I think that was the year that Kevin Durant was hurt. And then he bounced back with the Wizards in 2017 and coached them through 2021. And he was an assistant with Portland the last few years. And then Nate McMillan, he coached the Sonics between 2001 and 2005. So starting off coaching his former teammate Gary Payton, and then it was Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis, and then coached the Blazers between 2006 and 2012. That's Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, those guys. Then coached the Pacers between 2017 and 2020, and the Hawks between 2021 and 2023, before finally being fired, I think in February of last year. I think he didn't get along with Trae Young. Nate McMillan, one of those, like I said, he was drafted in '86. And he was a guy who played in the '90s, hard-nosed guy, and nasty, tough defender, two-time all-defensive team. Played with Gary Payton, and so he comes in. He's an old-school type coach, but he's playing in an era where the players run everything. And I think Trae Young got him up out of there for that reason. It was unfortunate because I think he's a good coach. He got into the conference finals in 2021 after taking over as an interim coach that year. He took over, mid-season. So some good experienced coaches for J.J. Redick on this staff. Dwayne Casey had also been mentioned for it, but he removed himself from consideration. Of course, Dwayne Casey is the former coach of the Raptors and the Pistons. So no championship experience on the bench for for J.J. Redick. But I guess, once you win a championship as a head coach, you don't really go back to being an assistant, right? So, that's about the best you can do. Two guys who, coach teams that, made deep playoff runs, made the playoffs multiple times. It's about as good as you can do right there. So we'll see how they're able to help Mr. Redick in his, first year as head coach, these early years for him. Obviously, he's never been a head coach before. Let's see here. Elsewhere. All right, so in the draft last week, on Wednesday in the first round, the Lakers drafted Dalton Knecht, 17th overall. We're talking about a 23-year-old, so he's a little older. That's probably why he fell. He was predicted to go higher uh, in the first round. Fell to the Lakers at 17. Some called it the steal of the draft. He was a consensus All-American last year for Tennessee after 2 years at Northern Colorado. He's 6'6", 197 pounds. He shot 40% from three last year. And I just think he fits with, Shane Murray was saying last week that it sounds like J.J. Redick wants to shoot threes. Boston just won the championship last year with, everybody on the court being a three-point threat. Everybody who stepped on the court for Boston last year was a three-point threat. Drew, Jalen, Tatum, Derek White, who they re-signed, Porzingis, Pritchard, Hauser, Cornette, all those guys. That's what they do. And they went 64-18 and 16-3 in the playoffs. So J.J. Redick is coming in with a plan, and they're able to have someone fall to them all the way down at 17, who should fit right in with that plan. And I think he can do some other things too. Connect as far as I'm not gonna pretend like I've seen that much of him, but I think he's more than just an outside shooter. So, it's a great value pick for the Lakers. Somebody was slated to go, as high as the top 10, and they get him at 17. Now he's older, and that's why he fell. But something I've noticed is that, more and more, you're starting to see more upperclassmen get drafted, again. When for a while, it's like that wasn't even a thing anymore. Everybody who got drafted was drafted, 1 year of college, and that was it. But good for the Lakers there. And then, of course, the the big one was the next day when the Lakers, with the 55th overall pick, drafted Bronny James, the eldest son, the first child of LeBron James Sr., 19 years old, averaged 5 points per game for USC last year. He's already signed. He signed a 4-year, $7.9 million contract with a team option for the fourth year. And he brings the roster to the maximum, 15 players. Credit to ESPN. Write-up I saw for a hat tip there. It was Dave McMenamin who reported that. 6'2", 210 pounds. A buddy of mine, Sark, texted me yesterday. He said that Bryce, who's, and Bryce is, Bronny's at 6'2". Bryce is already taller than Bronny. He's like 6'4", 6'5", if not taller already. And he doesn't have the same bounce in his legs, Sark was saying, as Bronny does. And I replied to him, I said, yeah, but he has no but Bronny's athletic traits are out of this world, kind of. Like, he would have been crazy as a safety. He should have played football, because just physically, athletically, he can just run and jump. He reminds me like a lot of Westbrook athletically, but he plays as if he basically has no purpose, right? Like, he's playing. I remember my brother saying once, he was talking about, I think it was Lonzo Ball, and he was saying that Lonzo plays like someone who doesn't really have a passion for the game. Like he plays like someone who um, was made to play basketball. I don't remember the exact wording my brother used, but Bronny to me kind of reminds me of that. Like Bronny reminds me of somebody who he's playing because I guess that's the family. His dad is LeBron James his senior, and that's why he's playing basketball. He has the athletic traits, but I just don't see. It's like so somebody like Alex Caruso, who I would say Bronny most reminds me of, except Caruso is 6'5", and Bronny is only 6'2". But Caruso was a guy even in college. Caruso was not a scorer. He didn't average 10 points a game any of his years in college. And Bronny last year averaged only about just under 5 points a game for USC, right? But Caruso plays basketball with a purpose. So Caruso decided, well, I'm the guy who's going to do all of the little things. So he's the guy who does everything else, right? He's the fill in the blanks guy, as Bill Simmons would call it. He's not out there looking for his shot. If he can, he'll shoot open threes if he can get it. But he's out there to run around and play defense and just sort of wreak havoc, Now, Bronny, I mean, that's how he plays, but it's hard for me to tell if it's like a conscious, he's making a conscious effort to do that. Because it really just seems like he's just out there running around. But he has so much athleticism that he can barely contain it, and then he gets that from his dad, just the ability to just run and jump. It seems like his stamina is out of this world, and of course he had the heart condition last year, so really he should be given more grace. And it was, but Monty Jones, he received a lot of backlash last week for his reaction, his response, and Bronny getting drafted. Because basically, let's face it, the only reason Bronny got drafted is because LeBron is his dad, right? And so I thought about it. It's like I don't, it's like I think it's, on the one hand, I think it's like a shame, right? But on the other hand, Giannis's brother has been with the Bucks for years now, and nobody cares, right? I think if Bronny were LeBron's brother, nobody would really care, right? The Lakers had one of was it the same brother the Lakers had when they were trying to get Giannis to come here? So it's like we had Costas, but I think that's why it feels weird because it's his son. That feels more like nepotism. The definition of nepotism is really. Let me look it up here. It says nepotism the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives, friends, or associates, especially by giving them jobs. So I feel like really when we think of nepotism, we think of, children being put in positions because of their parents, right? We don't really think of siblings or other things like that. We think of, that's why the term Nepo baby comes from, right? So I think that's why this bothers people more than, Giannis's brothers, being in the league, or his brothers, Thanasis, still being with the Bucks for no real reason, right? Other than just that he's Giannis's brother and Giannis wants him on the team. But, you had other people saying, well, who cares? It's just the 55th pick, right? How many 55th picks have ever really, it's like the pick is just, it's like, it doesn't even really matter, right? And then you had other people who were, upset about it and think it's just a charade. But it really doesn't matter, right? Even if he doesn't work out, it's like most 55th picks don't work out. And then if he does, it's like, man, that's pretty cool. But I don't know. We'll just have to see. They start summer league July 6th in Sacramento, and they're also playing the Vegas summer league. And Dalton will be on the team. Bronny will be on the team. Colin Castleton will be on the team. And it's going to be must-see TV, man. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about that, brother. So we'll just have to see what happens. Also, Max Christie signed for 4 years, $29 million. I think his extension is extended for 4 years and $29 million. Max Christie, we talked about him last week. Shane Murray was saying that basically that Max Christie, he's been disappointed. He's basically saying that Max Christie could not, he can't handle the ball, and that his role in the team should be limited to just playing defense and shooting corner threes. And I have to say, for once, I agree with Shane Murray. I feel like Max Christie, from what I've seen, he doesn't have much wiggle to his game, and he's basically a straight up and down player on offense, and that's how he should be utilized. Just run around, play some defense, and shoot the ball if he gets the open shots from the corner or whatever. And then, as Mitch said, if he fakes it and they jump, drive past them and go to the basket strong. But regardless, with them giving him this extension, it's clear that they consider him a clear-cut rotation piece going forward. D'Lo, as I mentioned, he picked up his option, and we talked about D'Lo last week also, as far as him just having confidence in himself no matter who the coach is, always keeping himself locked in the game. A lot of his body language and his attitude last year, like in the playoffs, Galvez mentioned, against Denver. When he's sitting on the bench, I don't know if he was eating or on his phone or what the hell he was doing, while the rest of the team was in the huddle. Mitch wondered if J.J. Redick, as someone who understands shooting and understands spacing, if he can help D'Lo flourish. And as Vito said, though, D'Lo really was flourishing under Darvin last year. I mean, D'Lo had a really good year last year. People forget this. The guy averaged 18 points a game. Shot 41%, I think, from three. So this has been a really good player, and he shot a career high from three last year. 41.5%. His shooting has only gotten better, really, as he's gotten older for the most part. Still only 28 years old, and I think it's strange that people act like the Lakers are just going to be the Lakers. So last year, right? We ran into our worst possible matchup in Denver. Lost in 5. But other than Denver, and I don't think we beat Boston either. The guys thought that we would. They said that if we had played Boston, we would have beaten them. I don't believe that, right? But other than that, there was nobody in the West last year or in the league last year Other than those two teams, other than Denver and Boston, there was nobody who there was no other team that I feared. You know, not Minnesota, not OKC, not Dallas, not Milwaukee, not Philly. None of those teams. So now the caveat is that going into next season, right? OKC is only going to be even better with the experience they had this year. Minnesota's only going to be even better. Dallas, they just made the finals, right? Denver is still going to be, well, Denver lost, KCP. So we'll see. But they're still Denver. They still have Joker and Murray and those guys. So it's only going to get more competitive from here and harder from here. San Antonio, they signed Chris Paul. They're going to be better. They'll probably take the biggest leap in the league next year. And, you know, so it's only going to get harder, as I said. But the idea that the Lakers are just like some also ran team, that the Lakers have a good basketball team, and they should be able to win if LeBron and AD are healthy next year as they were last year, and it's not likely, right, that would happen 2 years in a row. But even the year before that, we still got to 44 wins. So I think I read that the Lakers appear to be content just being a play-in team, basically, like they were the last 2 years, and then rolling the dice and seeing what happens when they, if they get to the playoffs. I forget to mention also, Memphis will be back next year. But the Lakers, regardless, the Lakers have a good basketball team. They should be able to win some games last year. They'll be in the mix for the for the playoffs. But it is what it is, man. Elsewhere around the association. So, of course, probably the big other. I would say the most impactful free agency transaction that's happened so far is probably Paul George to the Sixers, because he gives them a third star again. And I don't know, Paul George, to me, it's certain guys that it just kind of speaks for itself. He's been around for a long time now. He's 34 years old. And he hasn't won anything. Paul George is going into last year was year 14. So he's going into year 15. Now, he's obviously been a very good player, but he hasn't won anything. He didn't win anything in Indiana. He didn't get out the first round at OKC in 2 years. And he wasn't able to, him and Kawhi weren't able to get the Clippers to the promised land. So I don't expect that him going to Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia last year, their record with Embiid was something crazy. I forgot what it was. But so, it just helps that if Embiid is out now, they have another, a second star to go with Maxey, who they re-signed to a rookie max extension. But I think, what was it? They were like 30, weren't they like 31-8 when Embiid played during the regular season last year? So they were already good. So this is it's like insurance, but when it gets down to the playoffs, man, when it comes down to it, man, it's like, is Paul George the person who's going to get you over the hump? He never has been, right? So and then of course the move that made the most noise was Klay Thompson signing with leaving the Warriors. There was actually a sign and trade. I think the Warriors got two second round picks back, and he's going to the Mavericks. 3 years, $50 million. They said the Warriors had offered him 2 years, $48 million, but that was like a while ago. So they didn't make him an offer this year. And basically, this was a situation where you had a franchise legend, someone who won multiple titles with a franchise, just like Tony Parker with the Spurs, Dwayne Wade. Remember when Dwayne Wade left the Heat briefly, played with the Bulls, and then that half season with LeBron in Cleveland, and then went back to Miami. But basically, it was hurt feelings. It wasn't really about the money. It was about show me the respect that I've earned for what I've done for this franchise, and they felt like they weren't being respected, and they left. And I think that was what happened. And it's gonna be weird seeing Clay in another jersey next year. But the thing about it is, he's going into year 14, right? And most of the time, this is the thing. This thing where guys play 18, 19, 20 years and it's all with the same franchise, that's really a new concept, right? That's something that Kobe did. That's something that Duncan did. Ginobili played, I think, 16 years, I think, with the Spurs, but he's really not even on that. But he'd be kind of analogous, say Klay Thompson better career accolades wise, but kind of similar. But that's really a new concept. Like once you get to year 15, historically, right? Now guys can play, past that and still be good players and stuff like that. And Curry's gonna play. Curry's gonna finish his career in Golden State. It's looking like he wished Clay a farewell, and it seems like he's just Curry's content, just going down with the ship in Golden State. It would mean more for his legacy to play his whole career with Golden State than possibly leave and go chase a championship somewhere else. But the Warriors basically, it's like they remind me most of the Celtics of the '80s with Bird, McHale, Parrish, those guys, where Bird got to year 13 and it was over with. McHale played 13 years, it was over. Parrish ended his career somewhere else. Of course, he didn't start his career there, But it's like, how long are they going to keep these same three guys together when they're no longer in the championship mix? It's like, it's amazing what the Spurs did. The Spurs, for them to not just keep those three guys, Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan, together for so long, but to do it and pretty much be in the mix for a championship the whole time. That's not normal. The Spurs never really got to this point that the Warriors at, where they're just like a so-so playoff team. Maybe they didn't even make the playoffs last year. They lost in the play-in. Like I said, they're at the point where the Celtics were after 87, 88. So basically 90, 89 through 92, 93. They had kind of like a comeback, and I think it was 92 Birds last year where they almost made the conference finals again. But it was pretty much over after it. 87, that was the last year that they made the finals. In 88, they got bounced by Detroit. And after that, they never made the conference finals again. Now, did they still manage to win some games during the regular season? Yeah, but they were never truly in the mix for a championship after that. And that's where Golden State has been since they won their last title in 2022. And I know it's only been a couple of years, but it's like the point is that it's over, right? It's over. Like with San Antonio, it was never really just over. They still they would still have the best record in the league. They would make conference finals. They made the finals in 2013 and almost won it, and then won it in 2014. So they almost went back to back years after, Duncan and was in his prime, and him and Parker and Ginobili were really at their peak as a trio. So it's like What I mean, were Clay and Draymond and Curry just supposed to stay together and play together 8 years together after the run was really already already over. I'm sorry. Um, yeah. So it's kind of like it's sad, but it's really not that surprising. You know. Um, if anything, it's just surprising that Draymond is still there. You know. But yeah. But yeah, no, Clay. Good luck to him in Dallas. I think Clay is. I really don't think that Klay Thompson is anyone anymore in his career that's like, you know, impacting championship level basketball in any way. So Dallas made the finals last year. I honestly don't see that happening again. I don't see Dallas making it back. Even if, if Klay hadn't gone with him there, I don't think it makes a difference. Dallas was able to catch OKC at the right time, and then catch a Minnesota team that's still, learning and rising. Dallas had been in the conference finals a couple of years before this, and so they had a little bit more experience, even though Luke was only 25. When I look at, things next year, and I see Denver, I see, Minnesota with another year of experience, OKC, like I said, Memphis is going to be back, so I'm not worried about Dallas. Elsewhere, the Warriors tried to replace Klay with people like DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson. Steph Curry basically at this point is like Kobe in those last 2 or 3 years with the Lakers, where he's surrounded by these young guys and guys who really, don't even deserve to be on the same team as somebody like a Kobe Bryant. These young kids, they have Podziemski and Moody and Kuminga, good young players, but I mean, this is a guy who Curry in his prime, he's playing with prime Klay Thompson, prime Draymond Green, playing with prime Kevin Durant, playing with Sean Livingston and Barbosa and all those guys. And now he has these young kids who haven't done anything, and so it's just, Curry's going to have to ride out his career on a Golden State team that's not going to make any noise going forward unless the report was that they made a play for Paul George, so that would have just made them a little bit more relevant, I would say, moving forward. But I wouldn't say that they would be in the championship mix even if they had traded for Paul George. Andrew Wiggins is in the way there, right? 3 years, $84 million left, and it's like they don't need Wiggins and Kuminga and Draymond. They don't need all three of them. Now, are they going to play Draymond at center next year? Possibly, I guess. I don't know. The kid from Indiana, whose name I can't think of, he's a good player, Davis. But yeah, man, Curry's just he's going to have to go down. I guess he's content going down with the with the ship. And that's just Trace Davis Jackson is his name. He's a good player. He should be their center going forward. But yeah, I don't see how Draymond, Kuminga, and really they need to get rid of Wiggins, who's just in the way, so that Kuminga can just completely play. Wiggins is like, at this point, it's like Eddie Jones in Kobe's way. Not to say that Kuminga is going to ever be anything like Kobe, but that's pretty much what Wiggins is at this point. What else? I think that's pretty much it, man. The Nuggets lost KCP. We'll see what they do. As I said, the CP3 to the Magic. I'm sorry, to the Spurs. They'll probably be the most improved team in the league. They get their veterans. I felt like Minnesota won the draft by getting the kid Dillingham from the Spurs. It was. I thought it was funny and funny that the Spurs drafted. They basically chose Castle over Dillingham, and it makes sense because Castle is more of a, he's over himself. He went to UConn. He's more of a, anybody. Dillingham went to Kentucky for Calipari, where it's about the player. So they chose Castle, and then but so Minnesota, that's the guy Dillingham. He's going to be able to take a lot of that ball handling and playmaking and scoring pressure on the perimeter off of Edwards. So that's a good move for them. What else? Yeah, man. It is what it is. Also, I'll just conclude that I think the Clippers will be fine without Paul George, KPJ, and Derrick Jones Jr. Those are his replacements. All right, so before I get out of here, just a few reminders. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network. If you prefer the audio version, remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. The show is also on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and every other major podcatcher. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network and to like it on Facebook. Just search for the Complete Lakers Podcast. And finally, send feedback and mailbag questions to CompleteLakersPodcast@gmail.com. I am out.